and welcome to the Sikkim Podcast, brought to you by Sikkim Govt. I'm Chiring Eden.
And I'm Pema Wangchuk.
And we are
today at this wonderful place called the Rabbit Hole along MG Marg.
Yes, it's a cozy pub on MG Marg, and it's at least I think it is popular. I come here quite regularly, and many of my friends, many people I know also come here. And it's this cozy little place that is, run by Mr. Puchung, who has been kind enough to, let us use his venue, his pub.
Yes.
He's even shut the doors for an hour for us to record this podcast.
Yeah, so apologies to anyone who likes to begin their pub hopping early in the day, because there's a closed sign hanging from the door. So thank you, Puchung, for that.
Yeah, today is a Monday, so we are hoping there won't be many guests. That's why, that's why he's, I think, been brave enough to lend it to us also.
Yeah.
So Mr. Pema Wangchuk, how has the week been like in Sikkim?
Oh, Sikkim's week was exciting. The budget session played out. You had the Jan Unmukti Divas of the SKM, and a couple of Tendong Lorumfat happened as well. That is some very interesting announcements were made on Tendong Lorumfat, which have nothing to do with the mountain or the festival. So busy week for the VIPs. Busy week for the news cycles as well, because very interesting, like I said, announcements were made, and some histrionics as well.
It's been
played out, which we will get into discussing now. So,
but apart from the histrionics, apart from all this drama that has been happening, we will start with, I think, the budget, which is the big topic, I guess. And since Pema knows a little bit more about finance and budgets more than me, so he will start with it.
Yeah, so no, I don't think anyone in Sikkim understands budgets or finances. No one in the finance department or the ministry either. But yeah, the budget session happened. And like we had discussed in our previous episodes as well, the focus was very clearly on revenue. And although that is not reflected so much in the budget provisions, we get to hear that little bird that flies from department to department and sometimes tweets in our ears has been telling us that the departments that raise revenue by way of penalties and fines are busy at work, right? So expect that. Now, that does not normally feature in the budget speech so much, because that's about revenue, and budgets in states like Sikkim are more about expenditure. Like, they decide and tell us where they're going to be spending more on. And this time, for the past many budgets, Sikkim's capital expenditure, which is in lay terms can be explained as what you spend on infrastructure development, right? Roads, bridges, buildings, permanent investments have been going down a bit in Sikkim of late. This time it's seen a big spike.
Can I just stop you? I wanted to ask, when you said Sikkim's budget is mostly about expenditure, which means that, because we don't have many sources of revenue generation, is that because of that? Like, do other states focus also on revenue when it comes to the budget?
So,
or what? Or am I getting it all wrong?
No, that's no. Most budgets actually, even the national union budget, if you follow the news cycles, most of the union budget also, people will be talking more about what is going to be the focus of government expenditure, because revenue, they will not add any revenue models. The only revenue generation, like every time in the budget, in the national union budget that comes up, is the tax, right? So income tax slabs have been increased, lower, things like
we
that,
don't
right?
Have that.
So
a lot of that.
Yeah, so it's more, and and I kind of believe it, a lot of financial experts have said that don't pay too much attention to budgets, because budget is just is an expression of interest. It's an expression of interest in which the government is telling us which areas they're going to focus on. The execution is a whole different beast altogether. So in Sikkim, what they've said this time is that they're going to be spending more on developing. The government is going to spend more on creating assets.
Okay.
And that is like by way of roads, like I said, permanent assets. That's going to be the focus this time. I have my suspicions about why governments do that. And so should I kind of share my conspiracy theory about
Yes, that's what I would like to know.
So what happens is like capital expenditure is always when you're creating assets. Revenue expenditure is primarily when the money you spend to keep the government running, right? Which is salaries, pensions, maintenance, repairs, and things like that, right? So that is the other. So earlier it used to be revenue, non-revenue expenditure, it used to be called. So that is what the government is spending. Look at it this way. The non-revenue part of expenditure is what the government is spending to pay the people to make sure that the investments it has to create assets and facilities is done properly. Now, ideally, your capital expenditure should be more, right? What you're spending on building assets and social services or whatever, that should be more than what you're spending to keep the government running. But because the salaries have gone up so much, the salaries and wages bill, right, which includes your maintenance and everything else, is nearly 70 to 80% of your outgo. Now, when the government says they're going to spend more on capital expenditure, your immediate thing is, oh, great, assets, right? There'll be better roads, there'll be better buildings by way of schools, hospitals, government offices, and things like that. But what we have learned over the years is that is the new way by which the government again ends up spending most of it on wages. Because when you're building a project, like that project will require people to be hired. So when we talk about temporary MR, ad hoc appointments, these are for these projects. So those wages could be diverted there. I hope that is not what they're doing. I hope that's not what they're doing. I hope they're actually going to be spending this to create assets, because you cannot be hiring more people for the projects, right? You already bloated.
Yeah.
Right? So normally your MR, work charge employments are for these projects, right? I need to build a super specialty hospital. I don't need a super specialty engineer for 30 years, but I need him for 5 years. So get her for these 5 years on work charge or ad hoc. So that's it. That was the commitment. They talk about the GDP having increased 85% in the last 5-6 years and things like that. I would say take it with a pinch of salt, because whatever money comes into Sikkim by way of grants from Delhi also gets added to your GDP, right?
Yeah.
So it is not as if the incomes or production of the people has really increased. It's just that more money is coming in. So be realistic on that count.
The GDP will also have these pharma companies and all that.
So
right?
whatever. So that just given a population so small, those things get inflated. So yeah, that's going to be a thing to watch out for. Yeah. Yes.
So
now
that
the
is
more interesting.
No. So that is your conspiracy theory.
Not conspiracy, my suspicion and my fear, because this has been proven to be the case in the past.
Okay. So we'll move on from there and talk about
some bills and all also passed, but like nothing
major,
regular routine stuff. Yeah.
Is it so the drama that you want to talk about is it the assistant professor's issue, the regularization issue, right?
Begins with that, yeah.
So the assistant, from what I know, the assistant professors of the Sikkim government working under the Sikkim government, and who they also fall under the recent notification that was passed for regularization, right? It is related to that. And supposedly, allegedly, some assistant professor was not happy with the, how do you say it?
Terms of employment.
Like when someone is regularized, so from 8 years, like you had to fulfill 8 years of temporary service to be regularized earlier, which had been shortened to 4 years recently. 4 years. After 4 years of temporary service, you will be hired on a permanent basis, right? A regular employee.
Your service will be regularized.
So what had happened was that allegedly some assistant professor had messaged the chief minister on WhatsApp. That's the chief minister himself said this.
Yeah, at the
speech.
Tendong Lorumfat speech.
That someone had messaged him and said that we are not happy with this because when we are regularized, we are given on probation, the salary is cut like heavily, right?
Yeah, so you get a lump sum,
So
7,000.
That person wanted the chief minister to keep it the same as what they were getting, is what my understanding is.
Yeah.
And he was not against, obviously, cutting down the number of years from 8 to 4, but he or she was just saying that we'll be, the salary will be decreased. So please, consider it and maintain the same salary or whatever. I'm not sure of the details.
Yeah.
So that's what I have heard from some other sources as well. And the chief minister in his speech said that he seemed upset that someone messaged him directly and expressed dissatisfaction with this, I think, step that he sees as a positive step for all regular temporary employees. And I think that's why he said, like, okay, then since you are unhappy with it, someone messaged me, I'm going to roll back the decision only for the assistant professors.
Yeah.
Only they will have to now continue to serve for 8 years until they are regularized, and not 4 years.
Yeah, because in the speech, he also, the education minister was, we have an education, yeah. So the education minister was also there in the audience, and he said the education minister is also here. And so let's, I would like him to now even scrap those who have been regularized, people who served for 4 years, assistant professors who served for 4 years, who have been regularized, scrap their regularization also, put them back into the 4-year category after 8 years, put them back in the 8-year category. And when they complete 8 years, they'll come back into whatever is their pay band and scale, because they are not happy with the provisions.
But is it really that is what the supposed WhatsApp message said, that the probation period amount would be less?
So, yes, what normally happens is that when you're on temporary or contract basis, you're paid a certain amount. But when your services are regularized, then your meter starts again. So you begin as a probationary officer. And the rule goes that during the probation period, it is not just that the government can fire you at any time. It is also that you draw a very reduced lump sum amount by way of salary. So that's true. And obviously, for the chief minister to get so upset, like they say, the tone of the message would have been what ticked him off.
Yeah.
Right? It's the tone in which it was said or whatever. And it does not matter in what. See, it's one person.
Yeah.
It's one person who is not grateful, let's say, who's ungrateful.
But is it,
Yeah. Okay. Carry on.
Ungrateful in quotes?
No, ungrateful in in courts, outside courts, but the fact being that this person was ungrateful, and so that's not in doubt, right? That person was obviously not happy with how it was done.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And would have used uncharitable language to comment on the policy itself, right? Now, any policy, of course, can be challenged, can be criticized. My issue with this whole thing is that can policy be implemented or done away with just because some people are not grateful enough? Is it that simple to have a policy switch? If that be the case, then Sikkim should never have had any hydel projects, because the stakeholders and the people for whom
a larger group.
This whole project was being brought up were very unhappy with those things.
That's a very unhealthy,
the government never said,
precedent.
Ki, Acha, you don't value this thing, I will not give it to you.
Yeah.
West Point construction, right? A lot of people had issues with it. It's still given to people as this gift of huge benefit that will come to the people. So that is something that needs deeper discussion. Can policy be implemented or changed just because some people were rude
But I
or
think,
not grateful enough?
yeah, again, in this, even I, like you, have, suspicions and conspiracy theories that
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't just that. Maybe there was something else. Maybe, maybe, I don't know, this chief minister had
Who also has the finance portfolio, so he knows the finances. Yeah, please carry on.
not to
Okay, nothing to do with that.
finance, but just like maybe it was not just, no, to me it is like amazing.
No, he
that-
did take it personally. There's no doubt about
No,
it.
it's amazing that one person can have such an impact, is my thing. And I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that there is something else, that there is a bigger, reason, that maybe there are like more people, and that one person was just, voicing a larger group's,
No,
opinion.
so-
And that's why the chief minister took this decision. Like, I cannot
is-
accept that one person, yeah, basically that one person can have such an impact.
So, I mean, there is, I think, that is what we were told. That is what we were told. And then the association, the forum that represents the assistant professors, have issued an apology as well to the CM, saying that they deeply regret this message by one of them, clearly. And so they've apologized for that message, which the CM also said that when he received that message, he immediately WhatsApp back asking, okay, what's your name and where you posted, give me more details, and that person deleted the message. So,
which is obvious. Why won't that
yeah,
person?
no, see, it's fine. I mean, like maybe that professor was assistant professor, he or she was really deeply disturbed or by what was happening, and in a weak moment sent off that message. Forget about that, right? But at the end of the day, the association has apologized and have requested the CM that please don't cancel this thing. Please continue with this policy. We welcome this policy. And in the past also, they've welcomed this policy. I mean, your service is being regularized, right? It will get regularized 8 years later, even if that policy is cancelled now. But you had already either been regularized or on the verge of becoming regularized, and now that's being taken away from you. That is going to come as a major blow, and like that is obviously why the apologies are also coming in. And yeah, I mean, can personal slights really affect policy at this level is again
an issue. But the other,
even if they see, the point being this, it's not as if it doesn't, right? We know that in the past, previous governments and even before that, before the merger also, very petty personal issues have led to actual policy shifts in the government. So that happens, we know that. But you don't announce it. You don't like tell the world that this is the reason. You come up with ways to justify it, and the person who's at the receiving end of that move knows why it's being done, as do you. But the public at large is told, okay, they were like, we actually thought about this, and there is a policy and expert view that has been taken. So that's because what we're going to get into next is also going to be similar.
It is, so when you talk about that, it is in a way the CM trying to send a message, and because he could have easily solved it. Like, he could have easily not made it public. He could have just found out who that person is. I'm sure that's not that difficult, and talk to that person, and or whatever. Like, I contacted the ad hoc, the Temporary Employees Association, Assistant Professors Association, told them, what is this? One of your members has done this, and then solved it at that level and not made it this big. But I also wanted to make another point, is that when something like this happens, what I was also thinking is that we all know, like, this has been like the past few years has been handouts after handouts after handouts, right? So the culture of handouts, where you just give people jobs, projects, or whatever on the basis of your personal connection, or there's no specific filter or say a process. So you have made it so easy for the public that now when they now they are not grateful anymore. Now they're like, okay, we want more, we want more. So
Yeah.
it is in a way because of that culture that people are now like, they're
Oh, this is not enough. Like
this is not enough.
yeah.
Yeah, come on, yeah. Like, forget about the 1 year probation now. That's,
Yeah.
So that is also something that I feel like the government should think about and, make it a little bit, like put in some process and not make it like this
Yeah.
easy. Like,
I mean, like, I completely agree with what you're saying. That when you're because obviously, if I am a beneficiary, then and you have bent the rules for me. Yeah, you've bent the rules, changed the rules, shifted the goalpost, whatever, right? You've done all that so that I receive a certain benefit. Then
yeah.
I will say,
So ye bhi band
push it
kar
some
do.
more.
Haan.
Like, why only this much, right? So yeah, I mean, that is there, and like that's something that's a Frankenstein of your own creation, right? So
I
the
know.
moment you kind of did the first compromise of rules, you should have expected something like this. That's very interesting, like that's an interesting kind of theme to explore more down the line. Yeah.
So, moving on.
Yeah.
Are we done with the Sikkim news?
No.
Do you have anything else?
Panchayats?
Oh, yeah, we forgot about that. Yeah. Even that.
Yeah.
So the chief minister again made an announcement. Was that? That's not at the.
No, that is at the Jan Unmukti
Unmukti Divas. He made an announcement that the Panchayat and municipality elections that had been made non-party based elections, he is now going to turn it back into party based elections because some people. Yeah, this I don't even know how to explain, because some people who had stood for elections, panchayat elections, municipality, and they were supported by the party,
fielded.
by, even though it was non-party based, but they were supported by a party, and then and now and then they went on to say that no, we were not supported by any of this because
Oh yeah, so
we
the
did
line
not-
that the CM said
Yeah.
was that then they went
I don't know how
around
to
saying
explain.
that we are independent panchayats, we were elected on our own and not because of the party's blessings. And
And that is, and then that, and he clearly said that, okay, if that is the case, now I'm going to make it party based, and now let's see if you are going to win as independent candidates.
Yeah.
Is what he said, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that I'm a little bit confused as to how to understand, because it was non-party, but you are saying that your party supported that particular candidate, like but you're expecting the candidates to say that no, we were not independent, we were supported by a particular party, right?
Yeah, these are circles that like these circular arguments that can be very confusing. Yes, so yeah, that's primarily it, because what was said in the speech as the reason why Sikkim is now going to have party-based elections was that some candidates who won, who were clearly party candidates, not on paper, of course, went around saying that they won on their own. The party didn't make them win, and since they are so ungrateful, we are going to have party-based elections. So yeah, contest now as independents and show that you can win on their own.
Yeah.
So yeah, for about 5, 6 out of the 400 odd panchayats that Sikkim has, for them, for their pride, all of Sikkim is now going to have party-based elections. Yeah.
No, and
see,
even
I personally feel that panchayats should have. I'm completely fine with panchayats being party-based. At an ideological level. At a practical level, I think having non-party based elections works better for Sikkim, right? But at an ideological level, I believe that it should be party based. I don't have an issue with that. We saw the benefits of independent, like non-party based elections last time in the municipal elections. But because Panchayat election, like there's so many, we don't know what's the variety and diversity that is happening there. Municipal elections, fewer, and which we covered quite extensively, were interesting. So in the kind of candidates that we saw, right? A lot of independent candidates, none of whom won. All the party candidates, all the SKM candidates won. Almost all of them won, except one, where the BJP candidate lost. But otherwise, we saw a very interesting campaign, to the extent that some people who followed the elections in Sikkim felt that the municipal elections were actually more exciting than the assembly elections in Sikkim, right? And all of that because of some really interesting independent candidates that were in the fray, right? So for that, we'll miss it. Because when it becomes party-based, then it becomes dirty. Like, you can't help it. Like, that's how it works.
Even in the independent, like, non-party based also, it was quite, you know,
the party candidates were obvious, right? Like what we had said, that if you want a genuinely non-political party election, then all the party candidates who are contesting should resign their party posts and then contest. I think only one candidate did that, from Chandmari. I forget her name.
Donsi.
Yeah. So she resigned her post in the party to contest the elections. She lost because the party also had its own candidate, semi-official candidate in that ward. So they didn't do that. It was obvious. The candidates were like in your nose party candidates, right? On your nose party candidates. So that happened, and still there was space in which the independents could play.
Because I feel like, you know, even though people, like, if it's party, people will just not have the courage. I think that's the thing.
Unfortunate,
you know?
If that is the case.
In the municipality elections, I feel like they had that, you know, those who
that
had a little bit of
was
courage.
Created.
So they were like, no, this is non-party based. I can. They know they're not going to win. I'm sure they're like, you know, in the heart of hearts, they know they're not going to win. But they would be like, you know, it's non-party based. I want to. I'll try.
You know, because it's exciting at the municipal level, because then the party sets the narrative, right? And you can't divert from that. Whereas when independents come in, they have no political ideology to kowtow to. They can talk facts, and they talk like the people. So that will be missed. And I'm sure that will, like, if that happens, it will not come about.
But again, in this too, I also refuse to believe that it is just a few people who have forced this decision, right? Or there could be something else actually, that, or maybe the party or government just wanted to make it party based and just use this as an excuse. Same thing. Like, I'm like, no, it cannot be.
Either, see, this government of India has this crazy idea of simultaneous elections. So I think Panchayat, Municipal and Assembly and Lok Sabha can all be done simultaneous in Sikkim. You'll get a good mix. Otherwise, what happens is that after your assembly elections, you have within a year, last time because of COVID, things got delayed. Within a year, I think you have your municipal elections. And before the next assembly election, a year before the next assembly election, you have the Panchayat elections, which is a very good testing ground for political parties normally, right? Municipal, they'll sweep. Whoever forms the government, their candidates will win everywhere. So that's going to be a boring. So this time also municipal, which is why the councillors, including the mayor, are actually very limited powers, right? Like if you look at Bombay and you look at the bigger cities, the kind of power that the councillors and mayors have is huge. Whereas that's not the case in Sikkim. Because now it's going to come after the assembly elections, the government is in place. They'll give the tickets and they'll all be like party members. The Panchayat elections before the assembly elections, again the same thing, right? Opposition parties always find an excuse to boycott it because they can't field that many candidates. The ruling party sweeps the elections more or less. If you have it independent, what happens is the government changes. See, you have the Panchayat elections, then you have the assembly elections a year after that, and then the government changes. The government will either ignore the panchayats and not work with them and make the bureaucrats more powerful, which is bad, which happened last time. Or all these panchayats will then again have to go through this whole routine of joining the party that has formed the government, right? Both of which are unhealthy and a waste of time. So you do it apolitical. Don't have political parties. Whoever wins, these guys will say, we'll work with the government. We are part of the party. Join the party. That does not require a major shift of flag changing and all that. So, yeah, so that has also happened. Same reasons. The assistant professors and the panchayats have seen their world changed because some of them were not thankful enough. I mean, I'm fine at an ideological level. Like I said, I'm fine with these elections being party based. I'm not so fine with the reasons given.
Exactly. That's
Right?
the thing.
For both, I would say.
Moving on
And
to
yeah, with enough ranting about Sikkim,
national.
let's spare some rants for national issues as well. Yes.
Yeah, so the Vinesh Phogat fiasco that happened in the Olympics is in sports right now in India. That's the talk of the
Yes.
times, where the wrestler Vinesh Phogat was contesting in the 50 kg category, women's wrestling, and
Reached the finals.
I have the she reached the finals.
Reached the finals and
50 kg finals against US wrestler Sarah Hildebrandt, I think Hildebrandt, and she was supposed to and then right before the finals, I think she weighed 100 grams extra, 50 kgs 100 grams,
yes,
and which is why she was disqualified from participating in the finals, and that has been causing a whole lot of what do you call it, heartburn,
confusion, like with everything else initially,
because now even in that, like even in this case, there is like a divide. I have experienced that. I don't understand it. I thought initially it would be clean, right? Because the country would be upset or, like devastated that, she could have gotten us a gold, which she would probably have because
silver was guaranteed anyways, and she would have won.
She had defeated the number one, world number one in the
first round.
Yeah.
The first match.
So it was a guarantee, but then now, what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, there's one section which is like, it was her fault. What was she doing? Why wasn't she, taking care of her nutrition? How could she have let the country down like this? There is that side that is happening. On the other side, there are people who are like, no, it's so sad. The country let her down. She should have gotten more support. She should have gotten expert advice or, a better team to look after her in the Olympics. And then you also see like some weird that I was talking about last time, just connecting this with Iman Khalif, the Algerian that was just stupid. Anyways, I don't even want to, but so there is a divide. Okay? So like today I read PT Usha has defended the Olympics, the team. She's the, what is it? Or she's the official.
She's our president as well of the
Indian Olympic Association president. Yeah.
So she would be the chef de mission or whatever.
So she said like, it's not our fault. Like it is upon the wrestler to take care of her own nutrition and whatever, all this weights. It is not because of the team, the Olympic team.
This is... She said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's right. I mean, the whole point being that, she's right. Right? How can the Olympic Association or the wrestling team make sure that you make weight after, or you don't gain too much weight? So like, I mean, keep that aside.
Don't be like Hema Malini, okay, now. That you heard what Hema Malini said?
No.
Women should take care of their weight. They should, maintain their weight. This is why. Now she cannot.
You are going to get us cancelled. You are like mimicking like South Indians. How many people know Hema Malini? But yeah, I mean, if I am going to look for comments on wrestling, I am not going to ask Hema Malini.
This comedian was like, Hema Malini, I don't know what RO water she's drinking. She's
she's drinking Dharmender's RO water, like as in given his whole drinking issues. No, but so if I am going to look for a comment on wrestling, I am not going to Hema Malini, right? I am going to, PT Usha because she is IOA.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrestlers. I'm not going to ask Virat Kohli to comment on. Extend your sympathy and your support for Vinesh, but not expert opinion, right? So this also provided a lot of people with a chance to say, oh, look, you focus so much on cricket that our players are doing so well and not getting enough support for wrestling or whatever, right? That also happened. Now, for one, it's a very technical thing. We don't understand wrestling. Like, we don't understand, like, most of us won't know the difference between freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman, both of which are Olympic disciplines. Most of us don't know how these weight categories work. So just to give some background, right? So wrestling matches are played out, right? Each discipline is played out over 2 days. The wrestlers are required by law to maintain their weight for these 2 days. She was 50 on day one when she beat, I think she beat 3 people. The next day was a final bout. So when the news first broke that she has been disqualified and will not get any medal, at that time the immediate reaction even in newsrooms was, oh, just for 100 grams. Hey, that is so strict. Do you think that would have happened to a Western wrestler or first world countries and all that? Which is all wrong. It happens.
It happened.
100, like
50 grams, that Japanese wrestler, she said, he empathized with Vinesh Phogat, saying that I can understand what she's going through because usko to 50 grams overweight, okay, she was disqualified.
I mean, overweight is overweight. I mean, that's the same example as corruption that we keep giving, right? There is no little corruption or too much corruption. There is corruption, right? You can't be alikati corrupt. Like, it's like, it's like you can't be a little bit
You are
dead.
equating weight gain with corruption, fat gain.
No, I'm saying, so you cannot say that it's just 50 grams or 100 grams.
No, I'm just...
When the rules say 50 kilos, it has to be 50 kilos.
Yeah.
There's a reason they put that slab. Now, you have to understand about Vinesh. I mean, hats off to that girl, right? She has taken a very strong position for all women wrestlers in our country. The government was completely against her and all the people who stood with her, right? So those memes are famous, right? Those photographs are famous. From that, she comes to this event and she would have won a medal for the country, which just tells you that when it comes to sports, I mean, one, you're doing it for personal reasons. Like, I've trained 20 years and this is my moment. I've trained 4 years, let's say, for this Olympics, and this is my chance to do something. The country gets some reflected glory, fine. But what it also tells us is that politics does not define a sports person. She was so clearly against the present establishment and still she played her heart out. Her normal weight is about 56, 57. She dropped weight.
She competes in the 57 category, I think, usually.
Yeah, so she dropped initially weight to compete in the 53 weight category.
53,
But then some other wrestler qualified for that. So she dropped 3 more kilos to get into 50. They knew the previous evening itself that she has gone overweight by 3 kilos nearly, 2.7 kilos. She was overweight the previous evening.
Okay.
And the whole night she worked out, sweated, sauna to drop her weight, even cut her hair. And still 100 grams overweight and unfortunate. I mean, can be heartbreaking. Do you realize, like, 4 years and she has her share of injuries, and this is probably the last Olympics that she could otherwise also, given her age, could have contested, right? So that's unfortunate what happened. There are other aspects to it. I mean, what happened in this case is, again, the two extremes, right? The liberal left extreme and the extreme right extreme, both of which did not do very well in this case. When she reached the finals, this extreme left liberal thing was equating her protest against sexual harassment in the wrestling board. Remember those protests and when she was arrested and taken away? So people were picking that up and saying, see, this is the girl that you ill-treated and now she's going to win a medal for you. Fine to make a statement of it. I don't think it should be made an issue because she's a wrestler. She's a woman. She's a strong woman. She has her head in the right place. These are all different aspects of her, right? One is not dependent on the other. If she was not a wrestler, she would still have been a strong woman. she would still have protested sexual harassment at the workplace, right? But by doing this, you projected her as if she's something else. And then when she got disqualified, the right jumped in saying, we spent so much on her training. We gave her her personal coach and nutrition and nutrition, which doesn't make sense. Why do you want to tell me that? Except to say that, look, again, the same thing. She was not grateful enough, right? This is part of a policy. You were spending on her. So, and then the same thing, right? Like she let the country down. This attitude has to change, really.
Yeah.
People don't understand the struggles, the training, and all those things that she went through to get here. So if anybody requires understanding and empathy, it's her. I don't think as a country we are crying for a personal loss, right? We are empathizing with her. We are missing the fact that a medal didn't come our way. So that is where things went wrong, I feel. Like, if anything, I liked one argument that a sports professional made, who said that if they knew she's overweight, her coach should in the morning have withdrawn her from the competition, said that she's injured and she can't contest. She would have won a medal then. She would have won the silver. Right? But what were they thinking? That she'll, till she reaches the weighing scales, she'll lose 100 grams. They knew she was overweight, right? So they could have thought of that. But I guess your head is like...
I heard of another argument where they said that some other countries, some athlete who also had to contest in a weight lower than her usual weight category, she had gotten a year to lose weight. Like she knew that 1 year ahead that she has to contest in this weight category, and she had a year to prepare and all the support, and she managed to. So that the argument was like, why wasn't, the system, like, I think it was like critiquing the entire sports system.
I mean, all of that I'm fine
She
with.
should have been prepared, like she should have known like a year ahead, and this would not have happened.
Mary Kom has also done that, right? She's also contested in different weight categories over the years. So you find a slot and you know in advance and you prepare for it. And
But my thing was like, okay, this happens. Sometimes it happens in sports, right?
Yeah,
a whole
of
lot
course.
of things
She could have
happens.
lost.
So, but why make it an issue now? Why did she waste her time in the protests, with the...
That's what I'm saying. So the moment you see, I don't like this idea. Ideologically, I don't want politics to be dirty, but in reality, it is. So when they say politics is a dirty game, this is why they say that, right? You pollute everything with your politics at both ends, like I said, right? So the liberals also, by holding up her as this fighter and then saying, look how great she's doing. And then the right wing also saying, oh, look, she was wasting time, or whatever they can cook up with, right?
It should be left, the sports should be left alone.
And a person's political position should not reflect on their recognition for their expertise. Like, if you are the world's best cardiac surgeon, then will your political affiliations decide whether you are recognized for what you do? I mean, unless you're this weird, like, extreme Nazi kind of guy or whatever, right? So that, when they can't do, is the same thing as the assistant professors, Like you have ever seen our sports persons take a good stand, like good stand as in a politically anti-stand? Even in the wrestlers' protests, they didn't, right?
Yeah.
Most of them didn't, except some who didn't have anything to gain from the establishment. So that has to change. I think they should be allowed to express themselves. We should respect people's rights to an opinion and celebrate their excellence in professions of their choice.
She has appealed for a shared silver medal, right?
Yeah, they've kind of
have they
deferred the judgment. I think it's coming tomorrow,
okay.
Tuesday or something. Yeah.
So this has gone. I just wanted to.
By the time you hear this, the decision is probably out.
So I just wanted to. I didn't know this, so I just wanted to share it with our viewers that when something like this happens, then it goes to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Okay.
I just wanted to
just call it CAS.
CAS. It goes to CAS, and they decide, what is to be done.
Yeah.
So moving on, we'll go to the next
You mimicked Hema Malini. You didn't mimic PT Usha. But don't.
PT Usha,
Yes.
I haven't heard. I heard Hema Malini saying that. No,
Yeah.
there was a video of her saying that. So anyway, so the other topic is the Waqf board bill.
Yeah. So the walk.
Mm,
The only news here is one moment to celebrate the fact that it's a coalition government. Because if you remember, the previous government in Delhi, the previous government in Delhi, in which BJP had its own majority on its own, just abrogated Article 370, and nothing happened. Right? Huge, right? That move was, and they, like we say out in these parts, damn care. Right? They just went ahead with it and like.
Them kid diyo.
Yeah, they did it. Whereas this time is the Waqf board. I don't know why that's such a big issue, because it does not really affect most of us. It's something to do with the Muslim community and the community held lands, which are controlled by this organization called the Waqf board, which the government wanted amended. Diluted completely, put their own people, which it is a political, see, everyone accepts that Waqf boards need reform, they need transparency and all those things, yes. But what the government was trying is to use that excuse to infiltrate it with non-Muslims, which is insensitive. If we were a genuinely secular country in which we had respect for all faiths and all communities and all castes, then I would be fine with appointing anyone, irrespective of their religion. But when it is the whole thing of intent, no? It's like bad intentions, like everyone suspects behind this. They couldn't pull it off. They couldn't pull it off, and it had to go. It was sent to a joint parliamentary committee to discuss, study, and recommend how to go about it. And JPC is like we say in Hindi, thande baste mein dal diya, cold storage, right? It's been just shunted there. The government, the BJP, got a chance to tell its constituents that, see, hamara intent tha, this is one more thing that we are going to rub it to the Muslims, right? But you didn't give us the numbers, so it's gone to the JPC.
So there is this thing also, I think, no, that that the fact that it's gone to the joint parliamentary committee is like a defeat. Some are saying it's like a defeat for the BJP.
It is.
And then some are saying, no, it's not. I heard some people saying, no, it's not, because, it gives supposedly this, I don't know how...
Legitimacy?
No. How strong this argument is that, then when something goes to the JPC, then the party gets a lot of, opportunities to, our member has taken it up. The JPC meeting is happening today, and then they are going to discuss.
So they don't need to discuss it in the parliament.
No. It's like a publicity. Like they keep keep using this. Like, today there's the JPC
because
meeting.
mandir to ban gaya na. So now you need another issue. I don't think this has the same kind of resonance and appeal. But why I'm saying it is a loss, defeat, is because they didn't do that with 370.
They didn't have to,
because they had the numbers. This time, even their allies were not completely on board, because it's too early, they would feel, right? How their own voters would respond, and like, do you want to be so openly going after a particular community? You think only the Waqf board requires reforms in our country? The administrative reforms are required much quicker than anything else. So that you're not doing. So it's a question of, what everybody is saying is that, unfortunately or fortunately, people just can't accept the intent behind it. They know that the intentions were not honorable.
Okay.
And hence it got pushed out to the JPC. So I think that's a loss. That's a defeat.
We have to now talk about something like really sad that happened in the UK last week. I don't know when exactly was it.
It's been
the
happening over the past 10 days.
10
Now,
days.
not anymore, but yeah,
Yeah, so
triggered.
three young girls were killed by this person, and who is of, I think, what do you call it?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, South
Yeah,
African descent, but born in like resident of the UK, but it's not like they recently immigrated or anything like that. But then this has turned up into this, anti-immigrant sentiment, fanned the anti-immigrant sentiments, and also the, I think, against, yeah, it's become all kinds of
Yeah,
racist.
a lot of people in India should be able to understand what happened there. Didn't we see similar lynch mobs on fake allegations of people having beef? We saw that, right? We saw similar communal violence when WhatsApp messages spread on some people trying to kidnap kids, or when there were allegations that animals, cows were being taken to slaughter and people were killed. People's homes were entered because someone spread a rumor that they have beef in their fridge. So while the rest of the world is trying to understand how could something like this happen, I think there is a whole constituency in our country that completely understands how these things happen and don't even find anything wrong in it, because our establishment, our political parties have tried out these experiments rather successfully. So these were race violence, right? It was frustrated middle-aged white men primarily going on a rampage against anyone who didn't look like them. So brown and black-skinned people, right? So Indians, Pakistanis, and everybody else. One time when Indians receive the same slur as what we reserve for the Pakistani people, right? So, and look at the difference in the response. There was no attempt to even justify it slightly. At least when it comes to the government, when the British government, they were very clear in saying this is inexcusable. This is wrong and we'll take the strictest action. When something flares out like this, of course it takes time, right? Because there are no identified leaders, right? So it's just happened. What is it called? English Defense League or something?
Yeah.
A band organization, right?
English Defense League.
So they did not say that, oh, this is unfortunate, but there was this instigation, right? Which is what we do a lot in our country, right? We don't ever unequivocally condemn attacks on minorities. We will always come up with, but what, like the beef thing we saw, right? Where a lot of people were defending it by saying that he didn't have beef enough in his fridge, akhlaq. Didn't have beef in his fridge. And even at that time, I remember we had these discussions saying it does not matter. Even if he had beef in his fridge, does not give you the right to kill a person, right? Even if slaughtering cows is banned, let the law take action, not lynch mobs and crackpots like this. So in England, yes, these 40, 50-year-old white men, obnoxious. But you cannot say that about the government. They tried. They deployed more cops and everything. And now I think the situation is under control. But do we see that in our country? We should learn something from these guys.
It is so similar, this point that I'm, it's so similar to what happened even recently regarding the Kavariya's, notification where they were saying
display the
names of the shop owners and all that, right,
Yeah.
along the route. Similar to that, even in this, like the addresses of businesses owned by immigrants, supposed
were being
immigrants
shared on
were being
WhatsApp.
shared, and that's how the attacks
They
were
probably
being-
learned
yeah.
that from Gujarat. We did that in
Yeah.
Gujarat, or in Bombay as well, where the moment the situation exploded, these things were circulated and selective targeting of business establishments happened. That happens. Yeah,
Is that-
we gave the playbook.
Is it something like that? Maybe I'm forgetting or not remembering correctly. But was there something like that in Sikkim as well recently? Like the shops, the names of the owners have to be displayed.
Names?
No,
No, that's the rule. If
No,
you have
no,
a
no.
trade license, it's displayed.
No, something, nothing. No,
No, no.
I think I'm
Yeah,
getting
no,
confused.
please, like, we cannot have every episode where we just kind of tease this scandalous thing that we can't.
Oh, we have to go back to that scandal, that supposed scandal,
okay, yes.
non-existent scandal, and clarify. Okay, last episode, can I go? Last
Yes.
episode, we talked about a supposed insurance scam, which I have confirmed was not. There is something dubious, but it's not a scam. So it was the government had started an health insurance scam.
That's called a Freudian lapse. Like, she's admitting to it because there's no evidence.
Health insurance scheme for people and for government employees, and then
Yeah, and it didn't get enough traction. The government employees were not excited, and the impracticality of things.
it was no.
So what was dubious or suspicious in that whole thing was the lack of fanfare, this silent death. It just went away.
It just went.
It just went away.
But
So there were
was-
no explanations. Like, there was no WhatsApp message that led to this being withdrawn because people were not grateful enough.
Yeah, so it was, and I was not I was not incorrect regarding some things. Like, it was like, a certain percentage had to be
Yeah.
given by the employee, and the rest would be contributed by the government. And then in the something, it got cancelled due to some reasons that I am not sure. That's why I cannot disclose in public. Like, there is something dubious, okay,
Yeah.
but it is not as national level scam and all that
Yeah.
is not there. So I admit that I was partially wrong.
Yeah.
I was not fully wrong. So yeah. So after that, should we also talk about? Do we need about Bangladesh and what has happened in the aftermath of the protests now?
Oh, yeah, the government's gone. Muhammad Yunus,
Yeah.
who's not a politician, who does not belong to any political party. He's a Nobel laureate.
He's old.
A lot of people try to project him as being anti-India, which is not the case. He, if anything, is pro-Bangladesh, and that is absolutely fine. But that does not mean that he's anti-India.
So
right,
Mohammad Yunus is the founder of Grameen Bank
Yes.
and a Nobel Prize winner. Peace. No.
Yeah, Nobel.
Yeah. So he's this big personality. Yeah.
And
who has
commands respect across the board, and against whom the previous regime had filed something like 180 cases. So, like, the Indian media is trying to project him as being anti-India, which I think is not right, because, like I said, he's pro-Bangladesh, and his first priority will be Bangladesh, his country, which is how it should be, given where the country finds itself right now. This is not a post that he lobbied for. This is something that the protesters, a name that they threw and the name that worked for an interim government. You've got to understand that he's not going to be running the government. He's the interim government to bring the situation under control and hold fresh elections. So for that, they trust him, because getting a political guy again would lead to just witch hunts. What has happened after the government was toppled and the cops were beaten off the roads is attacks. And if you are consuming news in India, it is almost as if all the attacks are on Hindus. Yes, Hindus have been attacked, right? Yes, places of worship have been ransacked. But if you are consuming news in India, you would be led to believe that only this was happening, as if nothing else has happened in Bangladesh.
You know what else is going around? That America is behind all of this, and
Yeah.
So related to that, and that is why the Hindus are not directly, but there is a connection That's why the Hindus are, being attacked, and it's an anti-India. America is anti-India in the context of Bangladesh, and it wants to just, have this base in opposition to China. I don't know, something. I don't know. I'm not sure, but.
Does America have interest in Bangladesh?
Oh, there is some island. I saw this stupid video. There is some island near Bangladesh that America wants to,
with China.
Over.
So there is this whole thing, right? So China, if anyone, so the moment you say that, like the moment these conspiracy theorists, no, it's being said. Hasina is saying that. No, is it? Yeah. She has said America is behind all this. Fine, she'll say whatever, right? America even might be behind all this. I don't know. What I'm saying is, if you say America has a role in what happened in Bangladesh, why? Because it sees China as having undue influence on Bangladesh now, right? And it sees that happening in Sri Lanka. It sees that happening in Pakistan. China is active in Afghanistan as well. And Burma, they've always been a factor. Now, more than America, it should be India that is worried with China having a role in Bangladesh, right? Let's get that there. Now, if America's interest in Bangladesh is because of China, why does it then focus its energies against India? Like, I don't understand that. Absolutely. I don't understand that, right? Okay. Because India, when it comes to China, India should also be a player, right? If it is CIA, then I would say that RAW and CIA should have a joint task force to create unrest in Bangladesh and keep China out, if that were the case. Because the moment people say that America is behind what's happening in Bangladesh, you are saying that we are with China? Like India's backing is on China's side when it comes to influence in Bangladesh?
Yeah,
do we want to say that?
Like Sheikh Hasina was pro-India.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so will the other governments, like in different levels, right? So when the governments change in Nepal, you have them leaning towards India and leaning towards China. But in both cases, Nepal is priority number one for them, no? It is not as if Sheikh Hasina would be like dropping everything for Bangladesh and working only for India. So that is my problem. And you're giving too much credit to America if you think it can pull this off, right?
Yeah.
When has America interfered in affairs of a foreign country successfully?
But it could have a tiny role. It could have been,
by way of funding and all that, it could do. Yes, of course, it could, right? But the germ that it cannot create a situation. A situation exists,
already,
it explodes, and then everybody else can come and add some fuel to it. You cannot trigger that entire movement. I refuse to believe, because the moment you do that, you are discrediting this brilliant, we won't take sides, but this hugely successful, consistent and strong movement by students. Like this was pulled off by universities. Now you understand why BJP is so scared of JNU. When we were drawing up the list of recent movements, Occupy Wall Street, Tahrir Square, there was one in Poland. All these places is the young people, right? So young, educated, ideologically strong and committed. It's a very powerful concoction, and that's how we should encourage the young to be.
Yeah.
We have to encourage the young to challenge authority, because once they grow old, they'll be saying sorries and thank yous on WhatsApp a lot.
All right. I think we should, on that note
Yes.
of youth, anything else that you would like to add or share?
There was something that I was hoping we'd close with, but I just can't remember it anymore. So that will be another promise to our audience, a hook to watch our next episode and see what was that one thing that we wanted to close things off with.
Yes,
today.
and please check out our other video that you must have already, but please do. We are also trying to bring you ground reports of, issues on issues that matter to Sikkim
as explainers primarily.
And for now it's only Sikkim. Hopefully we'll be able to do ground reports of other places in the future, but right now
Bangladesh is not very far. We could try that. Yes, and like we were reminded last time, This is an appeal to subscribe and
Like,
like,
share,
share, and
subscribe,
press the bell icon
the bell icon that
so that you're notified
Yeah.
every time something drops.
every time we put out a video, you will get notified. And we are on Insta, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, or X as they call it now, and we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like the audio podcasts. And yeah,
Yeah. On that note,
thank you, and
Thank
see you
you.
next week.